a yellow half sheet of paper. If you just scan that code, if you have a Samsung phone, you do need to have a QR app, but if you have an iPhone, you could just use your regular camera. You just take a picture of the code. There are papers over on the table, or you can stand up and scan that. And that will link you right to tonight's presentation so that you will have a copy to access when you get home. And so welcome, and I know people are coming in, and we're going to be talking as everyone is coming in, but we're, like I said, we have a kind of a tight timeline. Again, I'm Michelle Blackley. I'm the principal here at Daniel Wright, and
hi, I'm Katie Reynolds. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction for District 103.
And tonight, Katie and I are actually going to talk to you about standards-based grading practices here at Daniel Wright. And tonight's presentation, we're going to talk about what is standards-based grading and why are we doing it, how standards-based grading is essential to academic success. We'll talk a little bit about how Power School and report cards will look a little different than they have in the past, and also how does standards-based grading prepare your son or daughter for Stevenson High School. So before we start talking about standards-based grading, I'd like you to take a minute and look up at this report card, and I'd like you to raise your hand if when you went to school, this is what your report card looked like. Okay, maybe not as high grade, right? I know mine wasn't, right? But it definitely was a percentage and then a letter grade. But no, I agreeably would tell you I was not those high grades. So before we start talking about standards-based grading, I want to do a little demonstration that I need 3 volunteers. It's going to be super easy. I'm not going to make you do anything embarrassing. I need 3 volunteers to come up front. So 3 volunteers. Come on. Thank you. There you go. Come on down. 2 more right there in the back. Thank you. Come on up. There we go. Lyman. Christine, come on up. All right. Here's your whiteboard. Here's your whiteboard and a marker. All right, you should have a whiteboard and a marker. All right, yeah, I know, it's right. We're nervous, you're kind of wondering. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a summative assessment. When you hear the word summative, it's kind of like the big game, right? This is Stevenson Friday night, right here. Okay, so this is the big game. And here's what I need you to do. I need you to print your best letter B. B is in Blackley. So your best letter B.
Uppercase or lowercase?
Your best capital. It's always the teachers. It's always the teachers. You have to print your best capital letter B. When you're done, I would like you to, whoa, Mrs. Reynolds, not yet? Oh, sorry, hang on a minute. Oh, no. Okay, what I'd like you to do, please, is hold up your letter B.
Oh, you're all right.
Show the audience how, thank you for that encouragement. That's great feedback. Fabulous. Now, thank you. Mrs. Reynolds, what I would like you to do is grade those letter B's.
Oh, we've got a cheater over here.
Uh-oh.
And in the olden days, you might have gotten more points off.
We don't punish for academic dishonest, at least with grades. Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go C minus.
Okay. Christine, can you hold up yours? And you were given a grade of what?
I was given a C.
A C. Miss Lyman, you were given a grade of what?
B plus.
A B plus. You were given a grade?
A C minus.
A C minus. All right, ladies, can you set your whiteboards there? Thank you. We're going to come back to you, so don't get too comfortable. No, oh yeah, you're like, geez, why did I volunteer? So, for those of us in this room that have lived this percentage and letter grades, we would go home, so they would go home and say, guess what, I got a B. And as a parent, you're like, great, what does that mean? And as a learner, kids are like, what does that mean? What I do know is it's not an A, it's a B. And then, if I called someone up here, if I called Dr. Warren up here and said, I would like you to grade these, would we have a B minus, or would he give that a B plus? So all of these questions about grading and what grades mean, we have been talking about here in District 103 for the past few years. And what we decided is we wanted to align with this philosophy of grades and grade reporting. That we wanted to be sure that grades represent a valid indicator of what a student should know and be able to do relative to content. And we also wanted the purpose of grades and the report card to communicate student achievement against learning expectations and identify areas of strength and areas of improvement. Furthermore, we talked about how we wanted grades at Daniel Wright to be supportive of learning, we wanted them to be meaningful, we wanted them to be accurate, and we wanted them to be consistent. So philosophically, as a district, that is where we were. So last year, we actually put into place some changes. So we took some first steps because we weren't quite ready to go all in. And for those of you that had students in, that were in the building last year and you saw the report card, you know that one of the changes we put into place is we actually removed student behaviors and reported on them differently. We removed them from calculating them into the grade. Things like participation, preparedness, homework completion. We actually pulled them out, and on the report card, your son or daughter received a grade relative to that behavior. And then we had content. It was still an average, and it was still a letter grade, but we felt that it was more valid indicator of what your son or daughter is able to do in the content and not diluted by these other measures.
So then, as we started to work through this process, as Michelle mentioned, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We pulled together a committee of teachers back in the 2016-17 school year, and we really started to educate ourselves on what are effective grading practices that would achieve those goals that of accurate, meaningful, timely, providing important feedback. We started to really look at the standards-based grading process. In addition, knowing that Stevenson was moving to a similar yet not quite the same process called evidence-based grading, or evidence-based reporting. Sorry, we just talked. And that it is Stevenson's goal that by the year 2020, all of their classes will be reporting through EBR. So we really wanted to make sure that our program was aligned and that we were using the most effective and efficient grading practices for your students' education. Additionally, beginning in 2017-18, we pulled together a committee of parents, which was the Parent Advisory Committee, and we would share with them decisions that our teacher committee was making in order to gain their feedback and have a parent perspective. Sometimes as educators, even though both Michelle and I are parents, it's hard to separate and look through the lens of a parent who isn't involved in the educational system. So we gained a lot of value by explaining different communication tools that we were going to use or different procedures, and then hearing feedback from a small focus group of parents before rolling into the program this year.
And so to continue towards our goal of making sure our grading practices are all of these things, this year we full stepped into the implementation of standards-based grading. Now, the definition of standards-based grading is this. It's a teaching and learning reporting system that indicates a student's progression of learning towards essential standards and specific skills for each content area. Okay, so this is why we had the letter B's come up here and do a little demonstration, because now what we're going to do is, my letter B people, can you come on back up? Yours. It's not yours. Oh, you're the C. There we go. All right. So now, if I was giving them that assessment in a standards-based philosophy, and if I was following that protocol, don't erase your B's, leave them there. What I would be doing is I would be clearly articulating prior to the assessment what it is I wanted them to know and be able to do, relative to how did I want them to print that capital letter B, because all I said was their best. I would also then use that criteria to assess their printing. So here's the criteria that Mrs. Reynolds is going to go back and use to assess their letter B's. So I have here, students will be able to print a capital letter B. And here's the criteria. And you guys move to the side, because I think, okay, there we go. You must use most of the drawing surface. You must create symmetrical lobes, and you have to include clean connections with your lines. So we're going to start here with this one, which was given a C. So do you want to hold up your letter B so everyone can see it? Mrs. Reynolds, can you please assess that letter B relative to that criteria?
So clearly the lobes are not symmetrical.
Okay, so we're going to say, did she meet that standard or not?
No. The connections here are not clean with the lines, and you're really kind of off center. You didn't use most of your drawing space.
So did this student meet the criteria? No. However, let's help her out. Now wait. Let's help her out. How is she going to do it differently next time? Right? She's going to use more of the paper. Right? Good job. And so the student, so go ahead and help the next letter B. Where did they lie?
You might be able to do this one on your own.
Yeah.
So although she did, I probably could have graded this a little bit higher now thinking about this, because really she does have clean connections, except for right here. Her lobes are almost symmetrical, but it's really tiny.
And I'm going to take this. So look at this. This was given a C-.
I might have made a little.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's why we're doing standards-based grading. Thank you very much. Because now we have a very clear understanding of what it is we wanted them to know and be able to do, and we're assessing them on that. And so this is not a C-. C-, I would say this is a meets in 2 categories. However, what are you going to tell me your first name? Tony. Tell Tony, what should she do to meet all of the criteria the next time she does this? Use more space. Thank you. All right, last one, Mrs. Lyman, you're up in front here getting graded. You were given a B+, maybe because she put the smiley face, and Mrs. Reynolds thought that was for her.
Yeah, she brought me in some tissues the other day, too.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So did she use most of the drawing surface?
She was more centered.
Right, but did she meet or not meet?
Partially.
We could say she's approaching that standard. Okay.
Which is a good category.
How about creating symmetrical lobes?
No. This one's not really, they're off.
And does she have clean lines?
Not down here.
No. Thank you. You can take a seat. So parents, here's how standards-based grading is to help you. Your children will know what it is they need to do differently next time. And when they come home, rather than saying, I got a B+, they're going to very clearly tell you what they can and they cannot do, and then you can help them at home, and we can support them here. So the value of standards-based grading has many facets, but clearly communicating to you and to learners what it is you need to know and be able to do, and also providing detailed feedback to you, to your kids, and to us as the educators on where the progress is being made and the areas that need support. So, what will this look like? And there's plenty of seats up here in the front. I know that's the last place people want to sit. And if you wouldn't mind, if you can scooch in a little bit, we got a lot of people standing. If they want to come in, they can. Thanks. So, what is this going to look like in our report cards? Well, the report card is going to be many pages, first of all, because it's going to give you a lot of information. And your son or daughter will be given a final designation at the end of the grading period where they lie relative to individual standards. Are they beginning that standard? Are they approaching the standard? Are they meeting it? And are they doing so consistently? Are they doing so frequently? And the description will be right on the report card for you. We will continue to report on learner characteristics separately, and the rubric is included for those. This year we added a fourth category. We added actually productivity. It's just not on this particular screenshot, but we added productivity to this. So when you get your son or daughter's report card, you find the standards. So in this case, this is science, and it's clearly indicating to you what the expectation, the learning expectation was, and where your child lies relative to that standard. So you can see CM is consistently mastering, that's questioning and defining problems, developing and using models, approaching, and planning and carrying out investigations, beginning. So you will know very specifically where your son or daughter lies relative to each content area standards. Here in behaviors, look at how great of a conversation this may be for you and your child. When we look here, we've got a 3 for homework, a 3 for preparedness, but a 1 for participation. So if this was my child, I would talk to them about participating more in class, about working collaboratively with others, and that is how you can help them be successful. Also, Power School will look a little different. I know a lot of parents have been reaching out to me saying they can't see anything and it looks different. So, when you access Power School, it will look different. My suggestion is access it through the web and not through the app. We're having some issues with the app, and you can access it right through the student info system on D103 on our homepage. But this is what you'll see when you open up your child's grades and attendance. That you will no longer see numbers, that you actually will see a blue icon, it's an I for information. Know that anything that's blue is a link in Power School. So what you would do is you would click right on that link, and then it will take you to specific information. So when I click on that link, it actually will give me the assignments, a list of the assignments that are in that particular content area. Know again that anything that's blue, if you click on it, it gives you a lot of information. So this is just the list of the assignments, but it doesn't tell you how your son or daughter is performing on those. So this little drop down here, there's a little arrow. When you click on that, it then lists out the activity, the standard it was related to, and your child's score, and an ME is meets. So if you take a look at this, for example, in ELA, summer reading novel annotations, there were 2 things that were assessed on that particular activity, and that was preparedness, as well as content knowledge relative to the standard, read and comprehend grade level proficiently. This particular student scored an ME on both of those. You can also find more information, again, anything that's blue, all the way over here on the right, where you see the word view. If you click on there, you're going to find more information in there about the assignment and or about your child's performance. You would actually get this box when you click on that. If the teacher entered something in, and this is an assignment description, it explains very clearly what this assignment was. Students were assessed on how well they participated in small and large group discussion, as well as we finished up relative ages of the rock activity. So it's going to be very clearly tell you what that assignment was, and in this case, there was an additional comment underscore saying they were very prepared. So there's lots of information in there, however it looks different than it has in the past. Here are some other changes for 2018-19. Our core classes will be on trimesters, 12 weeks long, and the reason for that is so that teachers have ample time to really know where kids are in the learning progression. Our creative arts and CAPE classes, health and PE, they will remain on 9 weeks and quarters, and that simply has to do with numbers of sections. So this way kids can take advantage of every creative art option we have in the building rather than having kids make choices. A big one that is a change you will notice is we will no longer calculate a GPA, a grade point average, because we no longer will be averaging. So because of this, DPW will no longer be a member of the National Junior Honor Society, even though Mrs. Vincent did a brilliant job at reaching out to the National Junior Honor Society, explaining to them our changes in our grading system. However, one of the requirements in the bylaws is a GPA. Because we are no longer doing it, we will no longer participate in NJHS, that our current 8th graders are our last inducted class here. However, we will be replacing NJHS with a program called Leaders in Learning, and more information will be coming on that.
To clarify though, for those who were inducted at the end of 7th grade into 8th grade, we will have NJHS for the rest of this year, because those students were inducted through a GPA at the end of their 7th grade. But then moving forward, instead of having the NJHS program beginning in the 1920 school year, that's when we'll implement the Leaders in Learning program.
And then a big question is, how does this affect placement at Stevenson? It doesn't, in the sense that placement is a process. It is actually a discussion between the teachers. Our teachers meet with Stevenson content area teachers, and the administration meets with the department heads. We meet and have conversations around where kids are in their learning. We use common assessments that were developed across the consortium. We use common end of the year assessments. We use map data in those conversations to make a recommendation to where we think the next step is for your child in that particular content area. And again, it's a recommendation to where they need to be. And as parents, a change Mr. Gobble was put into place this year was that they can self-select even outside of that recommendation, correct?
Absolutely.
Lastly, I know that for us, and when I say us, I mean parents, this is different. This feels different, and it's not what we're used to. But I want you to know that I think we all would have been more successful in school if we were given this kind of feedback. Interesting, at the end of their freshman year, Stevenson High School gives a survey to students, and they ask them one open-ended question. There's many questions, but one open-ended question, and that open-ended question is, what is one thing you would change about your middle school experience? We had 32 students out of the 202 that took that survey indicate something about evidence-based grading. Here are some actual input from kids, I would add some exposure to the EBR grading system. Daniel Wright could have more classes with EBR. Having EBR grading. I wish we had been introduced to EBR sooner, that we better understand the expectations for it. I would change the grading system. If I had more prior knowledge of EBR courses, we should have EBR. DEW didn't have EBR. And exposure to EBR, use EBR. So know that we are setting your children up for success at Stevenson. So not only here with the content to help them be better learners, but also to help them go into their high school years being better learners as well. We have a packed night. Mrs. Reynolds and I will be here throughout the evening if you have any questions. But I do want to ask you that this is brand new for all of us. And we appreciate your patience as the teachers are working through how the best way to get this into PowerSchool and get this information viewable for you. So we really appreciate your patience. And throughout the night, I will be here if you want to ask any questions. Thank you, and you can head to first period.